Hi everybody, this is Boogess Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the Diamond Select Toys The Walking Dead comic Michonne figure. So before we take a look at Michonne, let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories that she comes with. So first up, she comes with a set of open hands. Now switching these hands out is really difficult. So you can hear how tight the joint is, it's wanting to pop off there. Man, that is a nightmare to get off. You can see that joint's starting to pop off, and I forget what hands it was that she came with in the package, but they were stuck like crazy. Even after boiling them, you can see a lot of the plastic from whatever hand she had in the package still on this peg here. See, yeah, I'm not sure why Diamond Select Toys engineered the joints like this. Man, that's really tough. You can see that the joints themselves are wanting to pop out every time I switch the hands out. So that is really unfortunate. Switching the hands out is a lot more difficult than it should be on this figure. Up next, she comes with regular accessory holding hands. She is supposed to be able to hold her katana in either hand, but you can see how loose it is. Like, she can barely hold on to that. I am really disappointed that she can't even properly hold her katana in her hands. Up next, she comes with the sheath for her katana, and that actually stays on her really well, and that looks really good. Even though, if I remember right, comic Michonne doesn't really use the sheath that much. The McFarlane toy of the comic Michonne didn't even come with the sheath. But yeah, that actually goes on her really well and looks really cool in there. Up next, she comes with gun holding hands, and these hands can actually hold the katana properly. And that actually doesn't really look bad. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to use these gun holding hands for holding her katana. Up next, she comes with the assault rifle, and this has some really good sculpt detail to it. There's no sort of variation over top of it though. I would have preferred it to have like a gray variation. Since this figure's done in black and white with some gray tones, would have been cool if there would have been some gray dry brushed over top of that. I think that would have brought the details out really nicely. And finally, she comes with her messenger bag. And honestly, this doesn't look right on either shoulder that you put it on, just because of the way it sticks out. And then you'll have to put her arm out like this if you have it on there. So yeah, I'm just really not fond of the way that looks on her. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at the head sculpt. So taking a look at this head sculpt, I think Diamond Select Toys did a phenomenal job at sculpting and painting it. It looks really, really nice. I think it's based on Tony Moore's art for Michonne, like the cover art with Michonne on it, more than Charlie Adler's art, the interior art. But it still looks really good nonetheless. I especially love the sculpt detail to her hair. It's textured really nicely, and it's cast in black with a dry brushing of gray over top of it, which brings the detailing out really nicely. You get a glimmer of light painted there in her eyes. I'm used to figures using print tech nowadays. It's weird seeing solid paint on a face, but I think this actually looks really good and it suits the figure. I think Diamond Select Toys did a really good job on this, even if it does have solid paint instead of print tech. The scarf looks really good. I feel like it's cast in like a cream color with white paint over top of it. You can see where the paint gets really clumpy in between the wrinkles though. Whatever they decided to paint on right here clumped up really bad, and it's like textured and raised. I feel like that's really noticeable, the variation in the wrinkles there. So that is unfortunate that the paint's so clumpy there. But her jacket looks really nice. The sculpted wrinkles look really realistic. I love the way that looks. You get some texturing to it as well, and then a black wash that brings the details out really nicely. You can even see the stitch work there on the buttons. You can really see the texturing right here and the paint detail that brings it out. That is sculpted really well. I love the paint and sculpt detail to this. If you move her scarf right here, you can see that her shirt or her blouse is detailed just as well. You get some slight texturing to it and a black wash that looks really nice. I also think that the sculpted texturing to the skirt looks really good. I don't recall it being textured in the comics, but I think that actually makes the figure look really interesting, the texturing going on right there. The pattern is sculpted on. That looks really good. My only complaint is that it hinders all articulation in the hips. You know, it looks good, but I think fabric would have been the way to go, because as it is, it just hinders all articulation and makes her pretty much immovable right here. If you look at the elbow joints, they cast them in a different color than the rest of the jacket. They did paint it on, but as I've been posing the figure around, it's just been chipping away, and that is really noticeable now. I also wanted to mention they did do a wash on the inside of her gloves right here. I don't really think that was necessary because you're not really going to see that, but they did give it some variation. One thing that bothers me is they added a bunch of texturing where it didn't need to be. Underneath her pants, it's like she has leggings on under it, like textured leggings. And in the comic, if you look, it's just her socks, skin, and then pants. I'm not sure why they textured this. They really didn't need to. They could have just left it plain like this for her skin tone. And then here you have her boots. They actually have a bit of a black wash over top of them, over top of that really dark gray. But as you move the joints around, you can see that the ankle joints are cast in this really light gray color. So yeah, I really wish companies would work on that. You know, cast the joints in the color that the rest of the thing is. Because it's really distracting when it chips away and then you see this really bright gray color right there. So now, let's go ahead and go over her articulation, which I think is the biggest flaw of this figure. She has a ball-jointed head that can look up just about all the way. She can't look down that far. She can move her head side to side very slightly, and around just a little bit. The shoulders only move out that far. They should be able to move out way more than that. But yeah, they only move out that far. She has single-jointed elbows that can actually bend in a decent amount. She has these weird ball-jointed wrists that really only move up and down very slightly, hinge very slightly, and they do spin all the way around, but man, they're really hindered. I don't know why they didn't just give regular hinge joints. Or, you know, ball joints like McFarlane does. I really don't like the way they made these joints right here. She has a ball jointed diaphragm that can't move back at all. She can't move forward at all. She can't really move side to side. She does have a waist swivel. She has ball jointed hips. No sort of thigh articulation at all. She just has hips that can't move out at all. She can't kick forward at all. She can't kick back at all. She has single-jointed knees that I wish could move back a little more. They do move side to side. She has boot swivel that moves side to side, ankles that can move down all the way, up all the way, and a nice ankle rocker. So yeah, this figure looks great, but man, the articulation is just horrible on it. So for the only size comparison, here she is next to the McFarlane Collar Topps TV show Rick figure. I couldn't find my Michonne figure, but I don't know if you'd get an accurate scaling with her since she's kind of in a battle pose like Rick is here. So overall, I think Diamond Select Toys did a phenomenal job at sculpting this figure. The sculpt is really great, and I especially love the paint detail. For a black and white figure, there's a lot of paint detail to it and variation, and it brings the details out really nicely. The problem is, the articulation is terrible on this figure. Like, honestly, that's probably the only pose that I'm going to be able to get her in is a vanilla pose. You can't really get her in any cool fighting poses or anything like that, and I think that's very unfortunate. You know, if they were going to make her like this, maybe they should have made her a posable statue, more like the McFarlane one, because at least then you'd know what kind of pose to get her in. When I got this figure, I thought I was going to be able to pose her around, get her in some cool poses, but yeah, I can't. And I also hate those wrist joints. Like, they limit all articulation. I'm not sure why Diamond Select Toys made them the way they did, because the articulation is almost non-existent aside from swiveling it all the way around. So yeah, while this figure looks good, the articulation really brings it down in my opinion, because there's really not much you're able to do with this figure. Like I said, the only real thing you're going to be able to do is just leave her in a vanilla pose. At some point, if I see the Rick figure, the comic Rick, I might get him too. But yeah, I don't have high hopes for it now after getting Michonne. And there's supposed to be 2 walkers and Negan announced, but with what's going on with Diamond Select Toys, who knows if those are even going to come out. So yeah, I had really high hopes for this figure, but now that I have her in hand, she is really disappointing. So, that's my review. If you like this review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.